Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. It's Luke Kelsall here from Growing Nature. Today I've had a load of wood chips delivered. I'm just going to show you exactly how I use them and why I use them in the food forest. Let's get into the video. First of all, there's a lot of talk about what kind of wood chips to get, and a lot of gardeners say, oh, get this certain kind, avoid this certain kind. I'm just going to show you exactly what I use and what I get. As you can see, this is not just big bark clippings, it's the whole tree chipped up, not into large chips. It's got the full leaves, twigs, everything. It's so important because if you want to create a better compost covering, like more of a mulch covering, you need the whole tree rather than just big bark chippings, because it'll decompose better, produce better soil and when it breaks down, and really just help your garden grow better because of that. In terms of getting wood chips, it's really easy. Like, all the local tree surgeons, believe it or not, want to dump this. They'll have a secret location you don't know about where they just take loads of wood chips and they'll all just dump it in this spot. If you find that, you've got a bit of a gold mine, you go and collect your own. But I've got a contact with a local tree surgeon and he just drops it off for free whenever he's got a job nearby. Like I say, it's a bit of a waste product then. Seems really stupid to waste something so good like this when it's perfect for use in the garden as a covering. This one is conifer tree clippings with something else mixed in. There's a lot of talk around avoiding certain kind of trees. I've never really bothered too much with that because I've noticed when they break down, they just all end up being the same thing anyway. And once they turn into mulch, the acidic level or pH level of the tree, like people say to avoid pine and walnut because they have high acidic levels, that usually breaks down with the decomposing process. So obviously if you're putting this directly onto some soil, like on a ground bed where you're growing vegetables, which I wouldn't advise anyway, you do want to avoid fresh wood chips or fresh wood chips that've got high pH levels or acidic levels, because it can affect the growth of your plants. But this is growing in the food forest around the trees as an extra top layer, so it wouldn't have much difference at all. There's nothing to worry about. So I've got a wheelbarrow, good spade. This is actually a good point, this. Getting a spade with a big head on it like that is so, honestly, it saves you so much time than having a little diddly thing. Get something like this. You can see though, if you leave the wood chips a few days, sit in a pile like this, and then you put your spade in and get some out, you'll see the heat, the compost heat, just almost steaming off it, and you'll see the fungus start to form. When you put that in the garden, that's the effect you're having on the garden every time you layer wood chips like this on. So now I've got a load of wood chip. I'm just going to take it down to the garden and start layering it on. So moving to the garden, I've found an area of the ground where I'm going to lay the wood chips. As you can see, there's some weeds starting to creep through the original layer of wood chips that I put down. So I'm just going to smother that with these. There's actually potatoes underneath all the ground here, and then a wood chip that's been laid down for quite a long time. I've never disturbed the soil, I've always just laid on top, and that's what I'm going to do with this next little wood chips. I'm just going to smother these weeds here, and then they'll hopefully suppress the weeds, and if they come through again, just repeat the process over and over again. Wood chips are also really good because they are naturally very buoyant. You can kneel on them and walk on them, and they're very clean, so you never get mud on your shoes like you would walking through a normal soil garden basically. The main thing I like to talk about wood chips is just the whole principle of having a covering and how this is so crucial to success in a food forest like this, because you've got to understand the soil is a living organism that's really delicate. It has billions of microbes and funguses that all need protecting with a barrier, effectively like a covering like this. Think about anywhere in nature, no ground is left uncovered. There's either weeds covering it, there's dead leaves covering it, twigs, and that's the process I'm replicating in the garden here, mimicking nature to get the same results as nature, because you see, no one is looking after the rainforest and they seem to be growing just fine. When you apply them same principles, about protecting the soil, it does do amazing things for your garden. It really helps us thrive. And as soon as you remove that covering from the soil, you run into so many problems. The soil becomes compact and hard. The topsoil just erodes away. It basically becomes like lifeless dirt. And that's obviously not good for growing food. That's why I like to use wood chips. Wood chips is my favourite as a covering because it's just, as it breaks down, it creates perfect mulch, especially if you've got the leaves in it like that, it starts to fertilise the ground. Wood chips also have an amazing property where they hold moisture, so when it rains, basically they are holding all that water content without flooding. It never floods. You know, as much as it wants to rain on wood chips, it'll never get waterlogged, which is pretty amazing. But at the same time, there's never too dry. The soil underneath is always, you know, moist and perfect for growing. Like even last year or a few years ago, we had a drought in this area here, and all the exposed soil in other people's gardens is like dirt, and it's just dust. You know, it's lifeless dust. But as soon as you brush the wood chips to the side, the soil underneath is just like black gold. It's just amazing compost, growing food. And again, you don't have to do any work for that like you wouldn't in nature. And this is all in line with the no-dig approach, which I advocate for a lot on this channel, protecting soil with a covering, which really does amazing things for your garden. So I'm just going to lay the wood chips on this area here. Like I said, I'm going to do it about 2 inches thick, because it's enough to smother the weeds but not be too thick and waste it too much. You could actually, if you wanted to, you could go 2 feet deep, but I don't see why you want to do that. Take a long time to break down, but as you can see, it's just really nice stuff. Another amazing thing about laying wood chips down, you actually are effectively building soil. Like this ground where I am now used to be a field, and all I did was lay wood chips on top of that, year after year, and over time it starts to decompose and produce its own soil, like compost soil, that I can now grow food in and plant in. And that's because of having wood chips like this, especially when it's got leaves in and smaller twigs can break down faster. Otherwise you'd be waiting years for big chips to break down, which wouldn't really be ideal. There's nothing better than building soil. It's adding to the garden. You don't want to be taking away, you want to be adding. Every time you add layers on, you really are helping your garden. Also on this area here, I said there's potatoes underneath. That is actually a really good advantage of planting underneath wood chips with potatoes, because again, another amazing thing about wood chips, these are actually lighter than soil. When the potatoes grow, and then as people experience in normal gardens, the potatoes start to pop out the top of the soil, the potatoes go green, and then they become inedible. When you have wood chips on top, like this, when a potato grows up, the wood chips actually also push up, so the potatoes never pop out of the ground, so you never have that problem. So all this effort going around heaping soil around your potatoes that are growing, you don't have to worry about that at all when you use wood chips like this. And that's why I've just got wood chips all over this area where I'm planting potatoes, all wood chips over my whole garden, but my whole potato patch isn't actually in rows of beds, it's in the food forest area like this. So yeah, it's an amazing advantage having wood chips. So I think that's just about done it in this area. See, I've covered it about 2 inches thick on the area where the weeds are just starting to come through. But it really is just that simple. Like layering wood chips on top of the ground, adding to the ground, adding to the soil, building soil, and keeping the ground protected with a covering like wood chips. I don't add wood chips every single year. I only add them when it's necessary. And you actually find when you start to add wood chips over the years, they break down slower, and then you end up putting less and less on each time. But it's just every now and again you like to top up in the areas of weeds creeping through. And this is really one of the core principles of the whole food forest system that I use. Using a covering like wood chips in the garden, and it really eliminates loads of problems and helps you grow food very easily. A lot of the traditional problems that gardeners face are solved when you apply covering like this. So I hope you found the video useful. Hopefully I covered everything. I think I did. But if I missed any questions you want to ask, just let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. But like I said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching. I look forward to the next one.